All right, we are live. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And I have been graced here by the great Jocelyn Bellows, and she's going to be showing us, she says, how to use NLP to be the CEO of our lives so we can overcome any hurdle that is plaguing our lives. Is that correct? Can you do that, Jocelyn?
It is entirely possible, Ryan, to do that. Yes.
All right. We will see. We will see. We will put her to the test in this latest episode of The Authority Project. All right, we're back here. So we are Jocelyn Bellows here. We are live, and we both kind of had a chuckle because we both got kind of injured before we got here. I'm a little better now. I have a broken capillary, but you probably can't see it now in my eye. And she has a black eye from a kid incident. What happened there?
Kid injury, yeah. Late last week, I was jumping on the trampoline with my young son. I have a 5-year-old son, and he jumped up, and he was too close to me, and he literally banged the top of his head right here. And so the end of last week, I just had this giant welt, and it's just slowly dissipating into healing.
Awesome.
This is not generally work, or I'm really good at makeup.
No, we can't use NLP for that. But
yeah, that one, no. That one, I mean, perhaps a little bit of self-healing, but right. I'm taking some other homeopathic remedies to assist.
Exactly. Okay, so let us go into who you are first. Tell us right now who you are personally and then professionally.
Yeah. So my name is Jocelyn Bellows, and I am a breakup to wake up coach. And oftentimes when people hear that, first of all, it's very shocking, right? What does that mean? Does that mean breaking up with relationships? And it is. It's actually breaking up with the relationships that you have with yourself. All of the negative self-talk, all the stuff that you say that you're unworthy of receiving love, unworthy of receiving the money that you desire, that you are made to play small, or you had to be subservient in your life, and all of those things that you sort of create as stories around yourself based on honestly what's happened in your childhood, that you've now created into your bubble of how you're meant to show up in the world. How you actually get to break up with those stories and craft a new journey and a new story for yourself, that you get to live the most amazing, joyful, abundant, happy life that you've always desired. That's entirely possible for you. And it's more than just mindset. It's more than just saying positive affirmations. It's really going deep into your subconscious and rewiring those stories from the root, removing that ugly root, and then planting a new seed, and then allowing that to integrate into your being at a cellular level.
Wow. Awesome. And tell us a little more about you personally.
Yeah, so I currently live in Colorado. Brian and I were just chatting about this. I'm also a native East Coaster. I'm from New Jersey, and I moved to Colorado about 3 years ago. And shortly after my move, I had really had some big observations about my own personal life. At the time, to make this move, it was a move by choice. I moved out here and had walked away from a very lucrative career, and my former husband and I had owned a business together. It was also doing quite well. Yet we knew we wanted to move to a new environment where we wanted to have the ability to spend more time outdoors, go explore the nature, and just Colorado seemed to be a really good fit for us. Make this move, and in the process of doing so, I had a lot of time now because I had walked away from my career, and he was flying back and forth, still running our business. And with all that space, I really had to sit with myself for the first time in 40 years of my life, and realized that the life that I was leading wasn't fulfilling for me. I wasn't happy in many ways. And so, yes, there were some things that were working. No, I'm going to correct that. There are things just weren't working in my life. Not physically, actually was not working, but I wasn't happy. Yeah. And I had to go down to strip my own stuff away and realize what is it how am I showing up in my world, and why is this resulting in the life that I'm currently living? And I had been in and out of therapy for many years. I'd struggled with anxiety and depression, and I'd realized that the therapy just was, I wasn't good on the route of therapy. So I started working with my first coach. And that's when I discovered spirituality. I discovered NLP, which is what I now practice. I discovered about how not only like, not just mindset, because it's a lot deeper than that, but how the way that we show up in our day-to-day lives, the way we think about ourselves, the way we feel about ourselves, the way that we act in our own way of being starts to craft how life evolves around us. I don't know if your audience talks about, or your audience is familiar with like frequency or vibration, but we'll dive it down to like a real base level. So there are certain words that you say in your life that when you say them, they have a different feeling to them. So the word happy, the word joyful, when you say those words, they're expansive. They bring you up. They make you want to put your shoulders back, your head raised. You open up your body. When you say I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm down, I'm not feeling good today. Like, and I'm doing this physically, but you start to collapse it within yourself. Those are very low vibrational words. They're very closed. They keep you kind of closed off from opportunities and abilities to see what's possible in your world. So some of it is language. Moreover, though, it's like really understanding why you've chosen to say and do the things that you do to yourself. So when Break Up to Wake Up, it is really a relationship with yourself. It is not a relationship external to you. It is the relationship that you have with your own internal being. That may result in external relationships falling away from you because you're shifting and changing. That doesn't mean that has to happen. It just means that you're working on you. And the people that are going to be around you to support you in that circle are going to support you because you're being your highest and best, truest version of yourself. You're being your own CEO. Rather than letting someone else kind of control the game, you're in control of your game.
Awesome.
But not consciously. Subconscious is always the thing at play.
Awesome. So I know you've been going, you're right there, you've already been going through a little bit of what we call neuro-linguistic programming already. But tell us about that. I'm not sure how much more you want to dig into your story, but tell us why you began to get into the practice of NLP and how that related to getting you to the point where you are now, and how and why you thought that was a good thing to practice, and how you think that will help others when you started.
Yeah. So it began really when I made the decision to end my marriage because that was a piece that was just not working for me any longer. And I ended that marriage very soon after when I worked with my first coach. He was the one who introduced me to NLP. I didn't know what NLP was. All I had known is that I had made a definitive decision that I was going to change because I looked back at the patterns of my life in relationships, in job choices, in friendships, and just, my overall way of being. And these things that were inconsistent or were not working, the only person that was consistent throughout this was me, right? Everyone else is external to me. What can I change? And I spent a lot of time in my head. And many of us do. We have these streaming thoughts about how what we think about ourselves in a certain situation, how we're going to show up like in a tough conversation with our boss or with somebody that we may not be getting along with, or dating. Are we showing up as the person we're really meant to be showing up as, or are we sort of putting on a mask of like, oh, this person's going to like this if I say this, so I'm going to show up that way. But that's not being authentic and true to you. So with the NLP, the reason that it was so attractive personally for me was because I spent so much time in my thinking process. I wanted to really reapproach how I thought and what I thought about myself. I had this very primal process around that. I wasn't good. I wasn't good enough to be a leader. I wasn't good enough, even though I was like all of my roles professionally, I was a leader every single time. And it wasn't as if I was seeking that role. They were given to me based on how I was showing up. But somewhere in my head, I told myself, I'm not good enough to be a leader. And I had to go back to the root of that. And that root came from, I think, early in my childhood when my younger sister, this is really where it began. My younger sister rode her bike before I did. 2 years younger. And I was like, I created a story around that resulted in how I was not good enough or deserving to have this sort of leadership role because I was subservient to a younger sibling. And that became even though it was a conscious thought, it became a subconscious contract that I made with myself. And so when I finally understood what that was and I could take that out and create a new storyline around it, like I am deserving. So what it was is like you take that, you pull that out and say, well, that's not true. And then you put in and say, here's all the evidence of why I'm actually am deserving because there's been evidence of it. Plug that one in. That's now my new seed. And you have to allow it to integrate. So you kind of say this process. For me, there's a lot of visualization that comes with it as well. So that's part of my practice with my own clients is when we start the journey, start the conversation, it's actually a visualization. So we start with having my child. And my child is here right now, and then we just had a second neighbor join us. So this is really our second and third neighbor joining us. I can only see in the behind me.
Okay.
This is like we talked, Brian. We brought this into reality. We were talking about
you have the fun house today. I see the fun house is at Joyce's house today.
So what I do with my client is we begin this by visualization, and we go to like what I call a fire, like a campfire, and you kind of go to the campfire and you sort of scan that space around your home. It's like, hey guys, I'm on a live stream, so we need to be quiet for 5 more minutes, okay? Thank you. Real life people,
yes.
Or 10 more minutes, I should say. We go into this place where they actually we start with stepping down a staircase.
Yeah.
It's gone from your conscious thought to your subconscious thought. And when you change our breathing patterns, we slow that breathing pattern down. So we're dropping into our being. We're no longer really totally at our head. We're really in our being. And when we start to do that, we allow then our subconscious thought to really come forward because our conscious mind always wants to be in control. It's running. It thinks it's running the game.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. Your subconscious is always running the game. But can you think about the dreams that you have? It's not your conscious mind that's controlling that. That's your subconscious mind. That's the really stuff that's going on within your being. So taking those steps down the staircase and then sort of scanning the space. What are you hearing? Are you feeling anything? Can you feel anything? You can feel any air movement? Because when you're really in that space, you can actually conjure up, wind or breeze or whatever, even if the room itself is very still. That can all actually happen. Smells can happen because there's a sensory that comes with that. And then what are you seeing? And then based on all of that, what are you feeling within your body? Are you feeling energy movement? Are you feeling certain centers of your body where things are lighting up? It could be right here. That's your third eye in your chakra system. But here, if you're getting like a headache right here, it means that you're not seeing something in your actual life that actually exists. So what is that? Or if your throat feels tight, that's your point of communication. So if your throat feels tight, then maybe you're not communicating something you need to communicate, whether it's to yourself, like you're not telling your own truth, whether it's to your partner or to people in your life or work or whatever. But if your throat is tight, that's an indicator that there's something that you aren't speaking into life that you need to in whatever way. And it may not be speaking, it might be writing, but whatever it is, it's something in some way of communicating. So we begin that process to really assess what is it that what's really going on? What is it that you really need to address in this present moment?
Yeah.
And it's a process. So this is not like a one-time session. This in one session you can start to resolve things, but there's going to be coursework that happens afterwards. There's journaling to process it, to really educate it out of your being, all the ugly stuff, because it doesn't happen just like you had 30. For me, I had 40 years a track, and that train track was really, really heavy, right?
Yeah.
So even though I was able to find new tracks within 3 months for myself, I fell back because I didn't practice to it. I fell back into my own tracks.
Yeah.
That's my own journey. And so that does happen. So it's a matter of really staying dedicated to this practice of being attuned to being quiet and being attuned to what's happening in your subconscious. So dropping into that visualization, and it's guided It's guided in so much that there's someone there kind of asking questions, but it's not me planting your answers. You have your own answers.
Yeah.
It's me just being there to hold a space where you get to explore that conversation. You get to explore that dark corner, because all of us have fears.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
We
exactly.
all have fears. We all have things that we have, we're terrified of doing. One of mine is absolutely fear of rejection when it comes to romantic relationships. Has always been.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, so like that's a very dark corner. And that's a dark corner in the side view of this visualization. I don't want to go there. Subconscious is like, I'm going to walk you over there and you're going to go look at it. And then my coach is there. I'm here. You explore it. I'm right here with you. Right. And not alone. And so there's that layering of that. And so that's also what I do with my own clients is kind of ask those questions. Be curious about what is your mind starting to create in that space around you. And I started to mention earlier about the fire, going to the fire. So the campfire, from it's some sort of fire. Usually it shows up as a campfire. It is a sacred space where you get to have a dialogue with somebody else or others in your life, or you at an earlier stage in your life, about something that's unresolved. And you literally can conjure that person into your space, have that conversation. It's like, okay, for me, I had created this story for myself when I was a very young child about what my life was going to be looking like as an adult.
Yeah.
And right, we all have.
Yes.
I talked to my inner child many times, and it continues to come. And sometimes she'll come back to me at the same age, only with a different set of concerns that need addressing because they haven't been resolved in my present day. And we have that. I literally talk to myself, or I guide my clients to talk to themselves about whatever that situation becomes. And even if you don't get to a full resolve in that hour and a half, you begin to resolve that, and you can integrate that new resolution into your present being. So two become one, because that 5-year-old is me.
Yeah.
So it really is some very deep integrative work to work through the things that are holding you back, because we all have things that are holding us back. Even when we think we're busted through, we're doing great, there's a day that you're going to trip and say, oh, shoot. Or just a moment in a day. It happens to all of us. Yeah.
So you said a lot there. I think my only question is how to deal with things that are external that you cannot control, because you can control a lot of things or try, and I know I like what you said. It takes more than just one session with yourself to rid yourself of these the layers that you placed upon yourself over the years. It's going to take a lot of time to break through those habits, those same routines, framing of yourself. So how do you deal with external issues where you can't control those at all?
No.
You can only control how you react to them, how you respond to them.
You can control how you respond, how you integrate it and respond to it. So right now, in fact, present day, I'm going through some very difficult, I'm having to shift some things within my own journey based on a reaction that I've had from my former family. And the practice that I'm taking is looking at them through the lens of love.
That was a long pause there.
Well, I had to think about it because I mean, really, this is very fresh. It truly has been since just hours ago, where things really kind of hit a point where I knew that I have the choice to shift. I can't control how they're going to react or respond to it, but I have a choice to shift. And I went to my own support system and said, okay, I see these things now. Legally, I could take one this way, but I don't want to go that route. That doesn't feel good to me, right? It made me upset. But I went to someone who I trusted, who I trust that could give me some perspective. And this person came back to me with a response that, honestly, when I first heard it, felt like a punch in the gut. And then I paused and I read it again, the response again, and I said, I see where that makes sense for me. If I choose to take this route, it actually feels good. Like I'm okay. The initial was like, oh, I feel like I'm being asked to no longer use my voice. And I sat with that for a moment, and because I'm pretty well integrated with my being, I waited to see if anything was going to show up in my body. And my throat did not get tight. And I thought that's where it would go. My throat did not get tight. I said, that's a good sign. Because telling me that there is another way I can still approach this conversation is a perfect example of it. That I can still be a teacher from my own journey to show others how that it's possible. And I don't have to go the route that I've been going. So it's, okay, so I know that was more a personal example, but you asked for more general statement. This is how I do it. This is my recommendation, is find people that you really, truly trust, that you admire, right? These are not necessarily they may not be these are people that you believe are living really wonderful lives and you want to be more like them. Find them and ask them their opinion if you feel that way. But really, at the end of the day, it's what's showing up for you and how are you feeling about the situation. If you can approach it in a way that's loving and embracing, because we are all love when we all think about it, when we all take that moment and step back. If we can approach it in a loving way, if we can approach it as saying, does this situation matter to me in 5 years from now? And if it does, then it's worth a lot of addressing, right? Then you really have to go deep. But if it's not going to bother you in 5 years from now, why is it bothering you now? Ask yourself that question. There's also other questions too. I love the work of Byron Katie, called the work. Is this true? Is it true? Why is it? If you think it's true, why is it true? Why isn't it true? Assess those things before you respond. There's also you can also integrate breath work into this, and it can be it doesn't have to be this heavy breath work situation. You can do something that's very simple. I do this with my 5-year-old who's been walking through this screen, who has had through Corona has had a lot of short-term anger, short-term frustration, because her world has changed and he wasn't able to play with friends and he didn't understand stuff. So he had a lot of frustrations. So one of the things that, because these were external to him, right? We sat down and I said, okay, buddy, just breathe in, count to the count of 3, hold it to the count of 3, breathe out to the count of 3. We did that 3 times. And just by doing that, you get to control yourself again. You're not allowing this external force to control you. And you're just taking that time to just hit the reset button. So it can be very simple. Before we got recording too, we were talking about, your eye situation. Of course, my eye situation is different. Hey, what's going on with yours and why? And what was your answer? Because I'm not going to answer for you.
I didn't get enough sleep. Not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
Doing too much in the monitor. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I also work on with my clients too is at the end of your day, take 10 minutes, no screen time, no noise, nothing. And just sit in silence, whether you're sitting or laying in bed, wherever, but sit in silence and just let yourself, your body just be still. Because what that does is it helps to relax your whole being into sleep. So even though that's at the end of the night, when you're in a situation that is maybe perplexing and maybe it's right in front of your face, you still can take those 3 seconds to breathe. Yeah. You can always do that. Because you get to control how you respond. Yeah. That's it. If people say that they're forcing you, no one can force you to do anything. No one. The only person that can do that is you.
That's true. Well, I want to get one more question, and then we're up against that. I want to get one more question in there before we go. And you're like the catalyst. You're the first person I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to ask this going forward to all the other people. So you're the first guinea pig to this.
Wait.
So tell us. You obviously are a true authority in your field. How does one get to the point where I want to do this as well, like doing this type of coaching? Do they have to go through NLP training and that kind of stuff, or show us just really quick how one gets to this point where they can do what you're doing and also help others that they want to serve as well?
Yeah. So I do recommend that you get some sort of education around it. And there are all sorts of coaching practices out there. NLP just happens to be the thing that lit me on fire. That's why I went for it, because to me it became like it was easy. And I did a 4-month program in a matter of a month and a half because I was so like just soaking it in, right? To be aware of like what it is that lights you on fire. Start there, and then go and do your research about what the programs and projects may be that might be best for you. So like I have lots of friends that are coaches in all sorts of different arenas, yogis and energy healers and sound healers and you name it. I have the whole group. For me, NLP was it. I do recommend that you go get some formal training or some not formal training that might make that feels too boxed. Find someone who maybe appeals to you that can be your teacher or multiple teachers. I have multiple teachers. And practice it. Find people that are willing to practice with you. Practice on your friends. You don't have to go through that 12-month, $10,000 or $30,000 program. You don't have to do it. Because at the end of the day, you will know what feels right to you. But you start there. You start with what lights you on fire.
I love it. And I think that's about it. We're going to wrap this up here. But that's great. Amazing. I didn't have to say too much. You just took it over, and I love it.
I'm not short for words.
Please tell us where people can find you online and connect with you.
So best way to find me is follow me on my personal pages where I keep everything at facebook.com/Jocelyn.BellowsWhitehead. I also am a podcast host as well, which we didn't even talk about. But you can find links to my show on my Facebook page as well. And I can also be found on Instagram at What's Your Leap. And that's also where you can find information about my show, which is called Leap, where I interview coaches and healers about their journey in taking a leap of faith and starting their own business.
Awesome. I love it. We're going to wrap it up here. Jocelyn. We're going to wrap it up here. Right now, I really appreciate it. Just incredible stuff. And if you guys want to get more details on the sponsor of this show, which is the Authority Builders Academy, which I put together as well. If you're not clear about your authority, this is what we help you do there. So we can get you in tune with that so you can actually sell what you're great at. And that's what we're about there. So search me there at on Facebook groups and search for Authority Builders Academy. And we will just sign up there and we'll get you in there. All right. Take care. I love you guys. Be blessed. And that is it for this episode of The Authority Project. Take care.